Jujutsu Kaisen and HUNTER are two works of fiction that are often brought up together due to their both having more complex than average power systems, and said systems having some similarities between each other. Today we're going to undergo the task of shifting the abilities of characters from one power system to the other, specifically curse users into nen users. This means breaking down what nen category they'd fall in, where their talents may lie, and deconstructing their abilities to see how they'd be formed if they were developed with nen instead of cursed energy. A quick rundown of both power systems. Cursed energy is a force built up through negative emotions. This energy leaks out of people who aren't conscious of it and accumulates to form curses. Though, if conscious of this energy, it can be utilized to access different techniques or abilities. Furthermore, if a cursed user is not killed and exercised through the use of cursed energy, they may likewise become a cursed spirit themselves. Nen is likewise the life energy in HUNTER, which takes different forms per person. Specifically, enhancers who have the ability to strengthen and enhance themselves or others, transmuters who change the properties of their aura, emitters with the ability to detach their aura from themselves, conjurers with the ability to create things with aura, manipulators who use their nen to manipulate and control, and finally specialists, those with abilities that don't fall into any of the prior categories. In terms of spoiler territory of what we'll be covering, if you've seen all of the HUNTER 2011 anime, you'll be good. There'll be some stuff that's been discussed more heavily only in the manga, but nothing to chafe any spoiler-hitting jimmies if you go on to read it yourself. With JJK, it'll be good if you finish Season 2. Speaking of which, the characters discussed will be the ones seen in the Hidden Inventory arc, meaning many of those we eventually see become senior sorcerers. Starting off, we have Suguru Geto. Geto has the innate technique of cursed spirit manipulation. Instead of just exercising curses, he absorbs them, allowing him to summon said spirits at his discretion. He's been seen using low tier to even special grade curses with no mention cap on the amount he can take in. During the night parade in JJK 0, we know he had over 6,000, but nothing from that material made it seem like that was his limit. No matter the strength level of any given spirit he has access to, he can reinforce them with his own cursed energy. In terms of a trump card, he has the max technique of Uzumaki. He combines his cursed spirits together for a one-time super devastating attack. This means he loses out on options, but in return, gains not only a devastating attack, but if used with a semi-first grade or higher curse, he can also extract their technique. Now, the problem with transferring cursed spirit manipulation is that it relies on something specific to JJK, that being curses, which are not present in HUNTER. That major shift being one of the reasons that I have Suguru Geto of all characters first on this list. But let's hurry along and get to his nen ability. First, his type. In this case, we look at what his curse technique was, what a hypothetical ability might be, as well as looking at the common personality traits of each aura type as explained by Hisoka. In this case, Geto would be a manipulator. The ability to use his nen to manipulate, along with a personality that is argumentative and logical. Traits seen in his interactions with Gojo, and eventual plan to wipe out non-sorcerers. As for his nen ability, it'd be similar to Abagane's, a nen exorcist with the conjugation ability to form nen beasts who can lift the lasting effects of nen abilities, but only if the wielder of the ability is still alive, due to the effects of nen lasting after death, or post-mortem nen, making the strength of that ability that much stronger. Geto just as well would be a nen exorcist, though where Abagane couldn't affect post-mortem nen, Geto's power would be focused around it. Just as post-mortem nen comes about due to the lasting grudge or emotion of a nen user in death, cursed spirits come about due to negativity turned to lingering cursed energy, as well as a cursed user's will and even abilities living on after death if not dealt with properly. Geto would be able to exercise via the manipulation of someone deceased nen, then absorbing that power similarly to his JJK ability. Then using conjugation, he can give it new physical form as a nen beast, and even with the only 60% ability to master conjugation, the enhancement from the nen's persistence after death is able to make that power up. The exorcism would function as such, completely removing the effects the nen ability had whenever it was affecting prior to Geto's involvement. And while effects of post-mortem nen are by no means a common occurrence just to be stumbled upon, this is more than made up for by the fact that he'd be able to control and summon out these curses at his leisure, though if they are destroyed, he loses access to them completely. He can also enhance them with his own nen, increasing either the strength of the spirit itself, or their ability to use their technique. Finally, Uzumaki, a technique where he combines and enhances multiple of his curses, accessing a state of extreme focus and power, which amplifies this combined curse to a point where its power and presence is as potent as any post-mortem technique would be at the time of death. He loses access to his curses like this, but the complete exhaustion of one of his options in exchange for power does act as a nen vow of sorts and aids in the potency of the technique. Next, we have Mei Mei. Her technique is blackbird manipulation. By imbuing crows with her cursed energy, she can both control and see through them. Her strongest battle application comes in the form of a binding vow where she commands a crow to commit a dive bomb attack, essentially acting as a kamikaze. The crow's cursed energy skyrockets as a result of the steep cost of its life set for the vow, and results in an extremely powerful impact, Mei Mei being seen exercising a special grade with this attack. In terms of a Nen ability, you have two options. Either way should be a transmuter, whimsical and a liar. First, an ability similar to that invented to Yuppie. Yuppie has the ability to transmute his rage into power, an ability only fitting of a high-level transmuter who greatly embodies the emotion they benefit from. Though where Yuppie is known for his rage, Mei Mei is known for her greed. That's where her ability, and likely title as a hunter, come in. Money Hunter. Now, we aren't assuming everyone on this list is a hunter, but Mei Mei would be due to the financial gain she'd see from becoming one. She'd only take contracted jobs that would see her getting paid, and the amount of strength she'd have access to would directly correlate to the amount she's getting paid. The higher she gets paid, the stronger she gets for that job. That means if she was somehow contracted for a job where the payout was infinite, government-issued, and recognized currency, she has the potential to temporarily access infinite pools of power. Said increase is also proportional to all of her abilities, and she can also only get powered up with the reward of government-issued legal tender on the line, as well as the signing of a contract, which acts as the binding of a vow. If the contract is broken on the side of the issuer, Mei Mei has the ability to abandon it at any point without repercussion. If broken on her part, however, she will not physically be able to make contact with the offered payout, and furthermore, if she makes contact with any currency in the next 24 hours, her aura will spread to it and combust, turning itself into the properties of flame to either burn or melt the currency away. A stipulation that, due to Mei Mei's personal feelings regarding money, makes her ability that much more powerful. On the other hand, her other possible ability is more centered around her crows. She would still become a hunter due to her pursuing of financial gain, and like her canon self, after discovering Nen, she'd disregard her natural abilities in favor of raw power, thinking that was the easiest way to get more jobs and in return more money. She'd put her power into her neighboring affinities of conjuration to create an axe, and enhancement to increase her physical ability. And while she would reach the top of her ability in these categories, she would eventually learn a similar lesson to Castro in his fight with Hisoka about disregarding one's natural affinity, possibly even learning it from watching that very same match. As a result, she'd create a technique to cash in on the mastery of her natural affinity, as well as her experience with its neighboring affinities, known as black bombs. She'd conjure crows from her aura and physically enhance them to their max. She'd likewise, to her canon counterpart, be able to control and see out the eyes of these crows. When she finds a target, that's when she capitalizes on her affinity, transmuting her Nen's nature into that of an explosive. Using her crows from a distance and taking advantage of their enhanced form, she's able to bombard opponents with quick and precise explosive attacks. Third up, Nanami. His curse technique is Ratio, the ability to divide a target into lines and force a weak point at the point of 7 to 3. If the 7 to 3 point of one of these lines is hit, the effect is the same as hitting a critical attack in a video game. If an opponent is too powerful, even hitting this point doesn't mean it'll result in critical damage, but for adversaries even somewhat relative to Nanami in terms of physical strength, a hit from the technique should have the ability to incapacitate a limb. On weaker curses, he's even been seen able to cleave them in two with his blunted blade, which serves as his main way of attack, though he has also been seen using his fists in collaboration with the technique. He also has Collapse, an application of his technique aimed at his environment, where he hits a weak point in it, causing damage to structural integrity and causing it to collapse. Lastly, there's Overtime, a binding vow in which he only has access to 80 to 90% of his max cursed energy output during his normal working hours, but if he holds to that, any time he goes over, he has access to up to 120% of his output. As for a Nen ability, Nanami would be a conjurer due to his high-strung nature and stoic demeanor. In terms of an ability, he'd conjure a pair of tools that have the Nen vow to be used in tandem with each other in order to pull off its ability at full power. First, he'd have his goggles. Through them, he'd be able to view the ratio lines across one's body and in turn the weak point. He'd also conjure a blended blade to hit said weak point. If not used in tandem to attack the weak point as pointed out by the goggles, then the resulting potency of the attack will be weaker. And beyond that, Nanami is only able to hit these weak points with blunted attacks. The order for attack potency of these attacks goes blunt blade being first, that having 100 to 115% thanks to his Nen vow, then his attacks being able to achieve 90% of their full power when using his fists, and 80% when using any other blunted weapon. Nanami on top of that would be an efficient practitioner of physical combat and of enhancing his physical power despite his only 60% ability to master enhancement technique. Unfortunately, I don't see him having access to overtime, as this version would be a hunter and they aren't governed by traditional hours. I also see this hunter Nanami being similar to his JJK counterpart, and that he'd attempt to step away from the world of hunters, but eventually stepping back in, possibly by someone like Jing in the same way he inspired Sato's. Also, I do see a relationship between Jing and this Nanami being similar to his JJK version and Gojo's relationship. Next, Haibara, dead. We also never see his ability. Moving on. Utahime. Her technique of solo forbidden aria allows her to completely amplify the total amount and output of cursed energy of a willing sorcerer in range, including herself. This ability is elevated with the addition of ritual, either in the form of dance, gesture, speech, music, or all of the above. Doing this, she can boost the potency of the technique to 120%. For her Nen-wielding counterpart, Utahime would be a conjurer like Nanami in her high-strungness. Her ability would be known as Divine Ritual's Blessing, and would take advantage of Divine Script and Nen Inscription as well as some enhancement. Also, how much overlap there could be between these methods of inscription is unknown, but moving forward I'll umbrella them as Divine Script. Now, Divine Script is a way of inscription that serves to augment Nen. The process is said to take hours of intense concentration, and can be used to strengthen or seal things like with Jing's box, or when using it on the rope wrapped around Gon's finger. Though in a combat aspect, relying on Divine Script is seen as a tell of weakness, or as a way of admitting you aren't strong enough with your own abilities. Though that would not be the case with Utahime. Through ritual, she would be able to conjure Divine Script, and the enhanced script she creates would be more powerful than what you'd see on average. On top of that, she can increase the strength of this script depending on how long or complex her ritual is. For example, if she just wanted a little boost to punch through a rock, she could say a quick chant and form some script around her fist. This not only applies to herself, but can be used on others. She can also form a zone with her script that benefits anyone in it that she views as an ally. If an enemy stepped in said zone, that would mean a greater effect of Utahime or those she deems allies attacks on them. She'd also commonly conjure either weapons to be used in conjunction with her ability, items to be used in ritual, or something that constitutes as both. Shoko. In Jujutsu Kaisen, she actually doesn't have an innate technique, but is quite gifted with reverse curse technique. The negative cursed energy multiplied on top of itself, creating positive energy. This allows the sorcerer to heal themselves, if they're really skilled at the art like Shoko is, others. She serves as a medic, both being skilled at reverse curse, and having the actual medical credentials despite cheating in med school. In HUNTER, her Nen type would be transmutation, and her ability would be the transmutation of her target's Nen into a type of healing energy, the effectiveness of which depends on the target's affinity. Enhancement lends to things like swelling, closing wounds, hindering conditions worsening, and pain. Transmutation can affect things like illness or poison, turning foreign or negative agents in the body into positive ones. Conjuration is good for replacing things such as limbs, cells, or blood. Emission is good for separating and ejecting foreign agents. Manipulation is good for closing wounds and making sure everything in the body is in alignment with itself. And specialization is good for everything, like a crazy diamond. I'm not sure if you've ever seen Crazy Diamond Heal Sicknesses though, so maybe not that, but whichever Nen type you are, is the type of healing is most effective on you, and in general, each healing type effectiveness is the same as your ability to master each type of Nen. The act of transmuting and healing takes Shoko's stamina as the catalyst, though it is less considering her efficiency with her own ability, as well as the target's own Nen, which is what's being transmuted, so how much healing one gets at a time depends on their own Nen quantity and condition. The Nen of another can also be used as a buffer to apply the healing effects of a certain category, but that would be an extremely delicate operation on the part of Shoko, and the one acting as the buffer. That person needing to have an extremely precise control of their Nen as well. This ability would also be deemed reverse curse. Tengen, an inhabitant of the Dark Continent. After an undocumented voyage to the Dark Continent, Tengen was the one to escape the island, as it is said that whenever humanity ventures to that place, they always bring something off the island with them, and the things that leave are known to bring disaster. Upon the return home from the voyage, of the 10 involved, 5 would be on the return, the quick loss of half their numbers upon setting foot on the landmass prompting their quick departure. As the 5 sailed away, dwelling on what had just happened, a female member of the group's demeanor would suddenly shift, and she would then stand and introduce herself as Tengen. This being identifying itself as Tengen would explain that it was from the Dark Continent, and thank the travelers, saying their being there had given it the window it desired. Not much more conversation would go by, as Tengen would then reveal that this body takeover would stay as such for the foreseeable future, then seemingly folding in space on itself, while saying it was going into hiding, and not to look for it. Not that they should be able to. Much is unknown about this anomaly, such as location, true form, details of abilities, and intentions. And now for the villain of Hidden Inventory, Toji Fushiguro. In Jujutsu Kaisen, Toji has no curse technique. In fact, having zero curse energy in general, due to a heavenly restriction. A heavenly restrict being the stripping of something from one at birth in exchange for a blessing of power. For Mekamaru, it was cursed energy reserves and range of ability in exchange for an extremely frail body. For Toji, it was complete forego of cursed energy in exchange for a body with every one of its physical senses being strengthened, to the point that he could dispatch of the likes of special grade curses and sorcerers alike. In terms of an ability in HUNTER, there is not something that can be equated to a heavenly restrict. I know some may think about Gon and his vow to throw it all away, which did result in him losing his ability to use Nen. However, he was intending to straight up die, but he was saved, so it was more than just Nen loss, and just as well, a Nen vow is more akin to a binding vow. And even if we did go the Nen vow route, it wouldn't work to exchange Toji's Nen for physical strength. Nen vows strengthen Nen. A contract that involves strengthening oneself by throwing their Nen away cannot exist. So instead of having to be Nenless, let's explore these two options. Though first off, he's an enhancer, obviously. Simple and determined, Toji revels in the field of violence, his trade, and his physical prowess is at all times one of his biggest advantages. With that out of the way, the first option is foregoing an enhancer ability for a conjuration one. In this case, he's still focused largely on enhancing his physical strength. His ability just wouldn't reflect his category. Instead, his conjuration ability would come in the form of his iconic worm. This Nen beast would, like in JJK, function as a way of storage, his own hidden inventory, with a cavernous inside used to store away weapons. The weapons in this case possibly being special conjured weapons made by the HUNTER versions of the Zenin clan, making them stronger than average and some still having special abilities. Then there's the other possible ability, Unchosen by all others. I ruled out making a Nen vow to lose Nen, and it is still closer to a binding vow than a heavenly restrict, but this would still serve as a way to restrict Toji to only his physical prowess, while also boosting it immensely. Unchosen by all others is the name and function of the Nen vow placed upon Toji, that being a vow that makes him unable to use Nen falling into the categories of anything except enhancement. The effect is that the percent value of mastery he would have been able to achieve of any other Nen mastery is added to his ability to master enhancement, plus the boost from the vow itself, giving him a 400% mastery in enhancement, as well as far and away the most potential of any physical fighter. And last, but certainly not least, the strongest sorcerer, the man who stands as the honored one throughout both heaven and earth, Satoru Gojo. Gojo wields the Six Eyes and Limitless technique, both being genetic traits belonging to the Gojo clan that can only be wielded by one person at any given point, Gojo wielding the ultimate combo of both. A quick and simple rundown, the Six Eyes give Gojo incredible vision and perception in terms of size, distance, and understanding. Even when blindfolded, his vision is powerful enough to maneuver without hold up and perceive things miles away. His powers of perception also allow him a greater understanding of cursed energy, leading to him being able to utilize it better than any other character in the series, and easily understand the cursed energy and techniques of others with a glance. His efficiency is to the point he never runs out, which can easily be confused at first glance as him having almost infinite cursed energy. Speaking of infinity, his Limitless is an application of manipulating space. He has Infinity, a neutral application of the technique that creates infinite space between whatever may be coming toward him and whatever he's touching, making it so he cannot be reached. This technique has been optimized to be able to automatically detect threats based on certain criteria. His active uses allow him to do things such as create attractive forces, repelling forces, and make imaginary mass. He can also teleport and fly. The Six Eyes and Limitless are brought to their full potential when together, and Satoru's ingenuity and practice with his techniques just as well serve to strengthen them. as well as place him as the strongest. In terms of HUNTER, he'd be a specialist, no doubt about it. No other category fits Gojo as well. Specialists are described as independent and charismatic, and considering Satoru Gojo's character and his loneliness brought upon due to his unparalleled strength, the way he raised up the next generation with desire to cultivate sorcerers stronger than him, and the way he leads his students and his fellow sorcerers as the strongest, all absolutely proves the validity of his placement as a specialist. Also his wild abilities. Now, he'd still wield the 6 eyes, though while they would function alongside his nen, they'd be similar to the scarlet eyes of the Karta. As we see from Kurapika, the glowing eyes are able to affect his nen. The 6 eyes would likewise be a natural product of Gojo's genetics, and would still be constantly active, leading to the blindfold to conserve on nen. Though he'd still have his powerful perception that would put En to shame, so he's fine. With the 6 eyes, his grasp and understanding of nen would be second to none, leading to ultra nen efficiency to the point he never runs out, but also leading to him being able to use every nen type at 100%. Gojo's overall mastery of nen essentially means that any feat or technique that has been seen as an application of, or pulled off with the use of nen, like any of the basic disciplines or something more advanced like Ryu, are all within his ability and at a high level. And even the possibility to recreate others' nen abilities exists due to his understanding of nen extending to be able to break down others' abilities, along with his 100% mastery of all typings. In terms of his own ability, he'd prefer manipulating space. Really, any ability he has in JJK should be in some way recreatable due to his ability to tweak his powers with any nen type flawlessly, and his specialist nature meaning the sky is really the limit compared to every other typing. And with that, that's the end of this round of Verse Swap, which may be a cool name for this series. Maybe I should make a playlist. Anyway, tell me what you think in the comments. I do intend to do more of these with different characters from the anime and manga, and possibly different characters from different shows. If you had different ideas for possible abilities for these characters, tell me in the comments. On top of that, if you had certain characters in mind from certain other shows or series, leave that down in the comments as well. If, and really when I do another, it'll either be on culling game players or curses. I already know exactly what Kashima would be. Anywho, thank you for watching, and have a good one.